Mississippi State and Alabama from Starkville, and joining us to talk a little bit about that ball game is Chris Stewart, who is the radio play-by-play voice of the Alabama Crimson Tide, the longtime voice of Alabama basketball and baseball. Last year, he did football for the entire season. This year, he's doing the road games. Eli Gold has been able to come back from some of his health issues. And, my friend, I have said this to you privately. I want to say it publicly as well. I am so happy for you with all your success. I know last year had its challenges, and so does this year, but you've done gracefully done a remarkable job, and just couldn't be any happy for you, Chris.
You're very kind. I appreciate it very much, and I even more so appreciate you showing your kindness by, for the first time ever, bringing me into a radio segment. All the interviews I've done, I don't think I've ever been brought in with Eddie Grant, Electric Avenue before. And I appreciate that. That was outstanding. That was outstanding.
I would love to take credit for that, but that is all Michael Borky. So Borky gets all the credit for that, but we will roll with it.
Outstanding. It has gone up another notch in my thoughts of him, because that's outstanding. So thank you much.
So, Chris, so much was made last week of all of the Lane Kiffin stuff and how Nick Saban responded to it. And I feel like kind of lost in that was how well Alabama played defensively last week. Was that the best that the Tide has been on the defensive side of the ball this year?
I think they've been good most weeks. I thought for the most part they were good against Texas. Let it get away somewhat in the fourth quarter, unfortunately. But I think it's a really good, really salty, deep defensive unit, and kind of thought coming in this is what they would be. But you're always going to be tested when you got to line up against the team that Lane coaches. He's a great play caller. He's a great coach in that regard, and you better be prepared. You better be fundamentally sound. You better make sure you take care of your assignments and don't get caught looking at all the eye candy that can be there. And Bama, I thought, was really, really good in all those facets, and that's the reason they came out and did as well as they did. They got some things thrown at them on that initial drive in that first quarter that resulted in giving up the score and falling behind and down at the half, but they didn't let it become a pattern throughout the course of the game. And to hold any team these days, but especially a Lane Kiffin coach team, to just 3 after midway through the first quarter, that's a heck of an accomplishment.
Chris, you've watched every snap that Jalen Milroe has taken this year, and so much has been made about the quarterback position, not just in the season, but leading into the season, who it was going to be, going back to the spring and everything. Did you get the sense that he played last week like a weight had been lifted off of his shoulders and he just got to go perform?
Yeah, and look, I don't know if this is accurate or not, but what's kind of come to my mind, and I've said this in a couple of interviews today, Richard, is you remember Jake Coker, his senior year? Everybody thought he was going to win the job. He transfers from Florida State, and he hadn't even won the starting job over Blake Sims, and by the way, did not win the starting job over Blake Sims his first year in Tuscaloosa. He was already on a preseason Heisman Trophy watch list and didn't win the job, and that's not a criticism of Jake at all. Jake stuck with it, was the starter going into his senior year, lost the job, I think, to Cooper Bateman, and it took all of about a game and a half at most for him to get the job back. He started against Georgia, and after that game, there was no doubt Jake Coker's your guy the rest of the year, and they won a national championship with him. Okay? Jalen Milroe's a different type quarterback. He's a different athlete. When he's on the field, he may be the best running option that Alabama has, which is not a criticism of Jace McClellan or any of the other guys. That's just how talented he is. But I don't know that he was put in the best position against Texas to be successful. And 2 touchdowns that he was involved with, or excuse me, 1 touchdown that he was involved with, at least, came off the board because of a penalty. So he made 2 terrible throws in the game, terrible throws that resulted in interceptions. But his upside and when he's put in the right spot and makes the right read, he is a very elite talent. And if he can kind of stay out of his own way and he gets put in the right position in terms of the play calling, which I thought happened 21 of 17, 225. Yeah, he threw a bad pick, but he also had an incredible touchdown pass where he got leveled, knew he was going to get leveled, and still developed, leaping into the air while he threw it, a fantastic pass for a score. He is a difference maker, and as Tommy Rees learns how to use him, and now that it's been established that he's the guy, I think there's some real upside potential for this team going forward on the offensive side of the ball.
Headed to Starkville this Saturday night. I feel like this dovetails with what we were just talking about because the portion of the passing game where Jalen Milroe has excelled has been in throwing the deep ball. Throws just such a beautiful deep ball. It's a driving spiral. It's a catchable ball. Mississippi State has been susceptible to big plays over the last couple of weeks, whether it was Malik Neighbors 2 weeks ago or Xavier Legette last week against South Carolina. Do you see an opportunity there for Alabama, and do you think that's a big part of what they will try to do offensively?
Yeah, I do. And look, I'm not going to sit here and claim to know all about Mississippi State yet, but just based on what we've seen from him, if Alabama can give him a little time, if he can mix in some of the intermediate stuff that he was a lot better at this week, spreading the wealth. He completed those 17 passes to 10 different receivers. He's got a lot of weapons available to him, and he used them. And the tight ends made some great grabs, and there's a bunch of guys that can line up at tight end that can catch the football as well as block. But if they do that effectively and can get just a little bit in the intermediate and give him some time when you do want to take chances deep, you're right. He's very accurate. He's got phenomenal arm strength. They've got receivers that are better, I think, more of them than they had last year and more consistent than they were a year ago. I think this can be still a very explosive offensive football team, and need a little confidence, need a little momentum, and I think they've gained that with what they did. Granted, it wasn't Milroe at quarterback on that final drive against USF, but they got the ball with 6.5 minutes to go, chewed 6 minutes off the clock, and got the deciding touchdown to make sure there was no chance for South Florida to have a goofy play happen and win the game. You do that collectively as an offensive unit, especially the offensive line. And even though you didn't play great in the first half against Ole Miss, you hung around and then looked great coming out of the locker room in the second half. Now you try to build on that, and you better, because I think despite not having their quarterback, A&M's probably going to bring a few more challenges than maybe even Ole Miss did in that game a week ago. And now it's A&M's in 2 weeks, I know, but State this particular week, they'll be ready to go for that one. I apologize. I had my maroon mixed up and was looking ahead to 2 weeks from now.
It's all right. Adidas does the same thing. They're used to it.
I got you.
Chris Stewart, Crimson Tide Sports Network. Last thing for you. We got about 2 minutes left. There was the story last week where a anonymous close friend of Nick Saban said some things that made it sound like, the end is probably not far away. He didn't put a specific timetable on it, whoever the friend was. I'm not painting you into a corner on this at all. I am curious, because you've been around Nick Saban for so long, does it feel any different this year or the last couple of years than maybe it did for the last decade and a half?
No, it really doesn't. I've said this for years, and this, I'm not directing this at you, but people, if you say something enough times, eventually it'll be right. And people have been saying this every year, ever since they finally stopped the narrative that he was going to leave Tuscaloosa. And I understood why the first 5 years everybody kept talking about, oh, he's going to go here, he's going to go here. The guy hadn't stuck around very long at any one place. It's natural they would go that route. Well, then it switched from he's going to go somewhere else to, well, he's going to hang it up. He's going to hang it up. Someday he will. I hope it's not for a long time from now. I hope he stays healthy.
Yeah, we can agree to disagree on that, but okay.
Okay, I got you. But he's going to coach as long as I think as long as his health will allow him, as long as he enjoys it. If he doesn't enjoy it anymore, then I think we'll see him on TV, and he'll be as good on television as he is on the sidelines. I think he'll be fantastic. Best thing we do with him, I know you're out of time, best thing we do with him every week on that TV show on the home games is when he draws up a play on the telestrator. It's the most watched part of it. It's the most commented on part, and it's the part where he has the most fun because it's him teaching, coaching, and I think he will enjoy doing that on TV almost as much as he does on the field.
He'll be really, really good at it when he does. And you also get to see a lighter side of him with the radio show on, I guess it's Thursday nights that you guys do as well. Chris, always